Relax, feel groovy. If you've dropped a psychedelic, the next couple of presentations are going to be absolutely fantastic for you. I had to go up a whole generation to find a husband, and he doesn't remember a lot about the 70s. And I'm sure still has LSD flashbacks. Or I'm just not someone that's easy to be married to. I don't know. All right. These three fabulous ladies, since I started Talent Table in 2017 or 18, have become three of my dearest friends. Laura White, who's now the head of talent, came to quite a few of our speed meeting events. We're doing them in May, and they're free to come for the day. Presented for the very first time at one of our events. So if you're ever interested in presenting, we will make it a really comfortable and fantastic experience. So if you want to come and share your business stories, come and see me. Laura Johnson, I met her when she was heading up marketing for a reference checking company. She has now started the fabulous venture called Striven. It's a career platform. It's a membership platform, and she's doing the most amazing webinars with people that have written fantastic books like Lars Schmidt and a whole bunch of people around the world, and you get easy access to them. And the very fabulous Quila Savelli, I first met her when she was working at Australia Post, and she was moved out of marketing into employment branding. So we did have another speaker announced for this. He's got COVID, so Quila at the very last minute has jumped in to help us out.
Oh, come on. Woo. Let's get it on.
So I'm going to hand over to them because that's my cue to get off the stage.
Okay, so we started this. It was actually Anthony who decided he had COVID, very casually. We're having a rant about marketing and HR one night, and the fact that we feel like it's one of those things that we continually talk about, but we're not really sure what's happening. We just keep seeing new articles. So then we dragged Laura into it, and then Quila finally volunteered to talk to us actually about their experiences. What are they doing, and how can we be better at it? Both of them have got very different experiences as well, so I think it's going to be a really great conversation to kind of look at the different ways we can work together and what we can do better, basically. So, Laura, do you want to start talking us through your experience between marketing and HR?
Sure, thanks, Laura. I've been at Papercut Software for 4 years, and it really was a dream come true to join that organisation. Great culture, great mission, purpose, values, that we live and breathe every day. And so it's always been a space where we've been encouraged to try new things. It's never been a space where you have to just stick to what's on your job description. And something I was always passionate about in previous companies was not only making friends with office manager and IT person when you join, but making friends with marketing straight away. They just have a different skill set to us. They think about things differently, and they are so broad across the organisation because they're responsible for the corporate brand. I thought that they could absolutely help us out with the employer brand. So that relationship that I have with the marketing team is really the core to the success in our very haphazard employer branding kind of strategy. And I'm looking at James up the back there, but they help us with everything that we need, and really grateful to have that strong relationship because our team doesn't have that specific skill set.
Awesome. I want to ask some questions on that, but first, Quila, so you've obviously sat on both sides of the fence.
Yeah.
How do you? I guess it'd be great to hear how you think that's changed things, but also your experience between the two.
Yeah, so on the second day of working at Australia Post, I got an email from this scary HR lady, Rebecca Houghton, which I guess a lot of you know her, not actually very scary when you get to know her. But I had this concept of HR being the people that hire and fire. They tell you when you're naughty and get you in a lot of trouble, and they wear a certain outfit, and they're all women, in my head a few years ago. And that tap on the shoulder was to work on EVP and start working as a recruitment marketing manager a few months down the line. Obviously, since then, I've realized that HR is very different than what my first notion was. But yeah, I think that coming from a marketing background, it's been a really interesting ride, kind of taking HR on the journey and teaching them how to be content marketers as well, employee ambassadors. And so, yeah, we'll be talking about that today.
Awesome. Okay, so Laura, you were just saying about the different skill sets. So what do you think is the kind of difference between the two, and where do you think the overlaps are, and where we can learn from each other?
I think that we can kind of get a little bit of tunnel vision when it comes to recruitment, and a lot of us, I mean, lots of things have changed since the pandemic has come about, and we've got a great talent shortage and borders closed and all of those sorts of things. But I think first and foremost, it's really good to collaborate with people outside of your department and ask them to kind of look at your strategy or look at your approach and go, how would you do things differently? And for marketing professionals, they're always thinking about the different personas. They're always thinking about the different audience, how they're going to interact with what you're putting out there, what they might kind of think of you based on what they're reading or consuming from a content perspective. So I think, when we get a job brief or we have a particular skill set or role that we're recruiting for, we can dig really deep with the hiring managers, we can understand our culture really well, we can have an idea of the things that we'd like to highlight, but then how do we do that? What's actually going to give us the best ROI? How are we going to, optimize this strategy, get it out to as many relevant people as possible, and not kind of have that throw it at the wall and hope it sticks approach?
I think that's a good summary. Can I ask you the same question, and then I want to talk to you about priorities?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I learned really early on from Rebecca Houghton and trying to convince Australia Post, this behemoth, that talent actually counted and that we should be treated as an internal customer of marketing, was looking at the traffic data to our career site. At that time, a few years ago, it was like 2 million visitors a month were coming to our career site, and that was the same as coming to our online shop. So that was a really compelling data point to start using, to start treating us as a relationship that was worthy of influencing our community.
That's huge.
Yeah.
The other thing you mentioned was about priorities and making sure that you guys had the same priorities. How have you managed to do that?
I mean, it's not easy. I'm not going to pretend that we have the, everything seamless, but we just work together really, really closely and kind of understand each other's point of view. I work for a product company, so things like product release, engaging with our channel because we don't have direct sales, and kind of building up, that momentum for our brand from a product perspective is obviously the marketing team's number one priority. The thing is that we can't build those awesome products and have those awesome things to market if we don't have awesome people doing the work. And a really wonderful thing about our culture is that they know that, they believe that, they look around at their colleagues and be like, I want another James or I want another Brenda, and how awesome is that? So let me help you. So we have that as the foundation. Internal customer is a really good way to put it. We did have to help them understand why we're an internal customer. One example we were talking about earlier is they had a lot of opinions on how we use LinkedIn. And it was I kind of tried to be very tactful in my approach and remind them that actually we pay a lot of money for LinkedIn, and really LinkedIn is everything to us, and we need to have quite a lot of say in the content that goes out, down to even the timing. So our social media manager is currently based, actually she lives out of a van and travels around the US, which is an awesome thing to come out of the pandemic, cool. But originally from Portland, and had scheduled all of our posts, corporate brand or employer brand or culture related, it didn't matter, to come out at 9 a.m. West Coast time, US. And I was like, okay, can we please have a look at the demographics of the followers of the page? Can we have a look at kind of where they are in terms of their industry, or their kind of expertise, and can we also look at their location? And we pulled that up, and it was like Melbourne, bang, UK, US, Singapore. And she was like, right, okay, I get it now. All right, we'll flip that and we'll schedule it more appropriately. So it was just about educating kind of why LinkedIn was important to us and why we really needed to have this strong partnership. And it resulted in us creating an employer brand Slack channel where actually it's a combination of marketing and talent professionals. So we see employer brand as a team that we've created with marketing and not a part of the talent function. And we have, I think it's fortnightly or every 3 weeks, we have a catch up with our content manager and our social media manager. We bring comms or videography in as we need to. And so, yeah, I think that kind of creating that team helps us go through the priorities and say, what have you got? What have we got? How can we work together?
That's awesome. So I guess it's like social media manager, content manager, also in marketing. Then you have your fortnightly catch-ups to be like, I need this, this, and this. I love that. I guess going back to the internal customer, how have you worked? I guess like that's one great example. How have you managed to get the internal customer kind of message across and get them to work in the same way?
Well, I'm like the noobiest noob at Sportsbet. I've only been there for a few weeks. So I love what you've just said. That's amazing food for thought. So team, take down the notes. But I've actually had quite the opposite experience, and I don't mean this in a negative way at Sportsbet, where it's so foundational, the employer branding work, that they're just starting to learn that like the fun and the excitement and the culture that we're trying to build needs to continue into the career site and career assets. A perfect example, and Sim, you're gonna laugh at this, a few weeks ago we needed a new LinkedIn banner. So they sent us an image of just like all these like sporting, like athletes, but all men, all white men, all grunting like this. And yeah, that's like kick-ass for our TV ad, which is great for the 2 million white male customers that we have, but not so much for the talent space. So we're really in that foundational, educational portion of our relationship where we say, actually, we need it to mirror a little bit more about the people that we're looking to attract. So now we've got Ash Barty on our banner, because obviously everyone needs Ash Barty. She's retired, so maybe she's looking for a new job. Who knows?
Brilliant. I guess the one thing we were going to talk about as well is what was the stuff that we wish we were doing. So based on what's happening in the industry, there's a huge amount of stuff that obviously we wish we were doing in marketing. Do you want to? I know we touched on it before.
Yeah,
so.
James and I have had a laundry list of things that we've wanted to do, and we actually feel really fortunate that we've just kicked off our very first kind of proper grown-up recruitment marketing campaign for a very senior engineering leadership position. And I'll be honest, I almost teared up. I was in the car on this call, and we had like 12 people from the marketing team on this call with James and I. And I was like, I just have to stop and thank everyone for all of the amazing skills and experience who have put their hand up to be a part of this, who are backing us with this, educating us. We've got people like our digital marketing manager in the US trolling LinkedIn to go, what's a sponsored post and how do we get a priority listing on jobs, and really trying to understand what it is that we're working with day in and day out. Creating videos, booking it in execs' calendars to create custom videos. Like, we've got a campaign manager on this campaign. So those sorts of things where we're much more strategic and much more proactive, we're actually using this experience as a template to be able to kick off these campaigns a lot faster in the future. And so basically creating a list of all of the different things that make up the campaign and have that be something that we can put out. The other thing that we would love to see more of, which is incredibly difficult, and if there's anyone here today who has some experience with this, I'd love to chat to you about it, is the employee advocacy side of things. Being a product company, we have a really large proportion of engineers and product managers and other people who would sit somewhere on the more introverted side of things, and so even though they're incredibly skilled and they have a lot of really cool things to say, and I just am constantly amazed by the contributions they make internally, we're not really having a lot of people put their hand up to speak externally on behalf of the brand. So referrals and going through that kind of network side of things to get more people into the business is something that we focus on. And it's funny, like there's been a couple of comments made to me over the last few weeks that Papercut has a really strong employer brand. And James and I are like, what? We probably do well in some parts of the industry because we have some people who are willing to get out there and talk about Papercut. But at our core, the things that we're struggling with every day, hiring engineers, hiring product managers, hiring designers, we don't have that name yet. And we can't be the person to go out and volunteer to, talk about Golang, because I have no idea what I would talk about. Employee advocacy and trying to get people to not only produce content, but also to put themselves out there and on behalf of the brand is something that is on our wish list, and we really will be working on over the next little while.
Awesome. Marion did a great session just before on employer branding, so you'd have to grab our slides. But I guess just on that, when you touched on recruitment marketing campaign, can you talk us through what's it made of? What are you doing? How's it working?
Yes, so we're making it up at the moment. But essentially it's looking at things that would be traditionally marketing from a product or a service perspective and applying that to attracting talent into the business. So things like, social media ads, SEM, SEO, Google AdWords as people would know it as, those sorts of things where the behaviour is changing, and we've talked about this a lot over many years, that it's not that you go into Seek or LinkedIn anymore and put in all of your wonderful criteria and filter everything down to exactly what you're looking for. I might do that because I work in talent and I understand how those platforms work. But a lot of people just open up their mobile phone and go, I want this job in this location, and they put it into Google. So unless they're looking for engineering, print management software, Melbourne, they're probably not going to find us because Google is not going to prioritise our content. So definitely leaning on digital marketing, slower burn content to create more interest in the topics that relate to the roles that we're recruiting for. So we have a lot of sustainability content because it's a really big part of our culture and our purpose, which is to craft more sustainable environments through software. So we actually don't have a lot of product content. When you take a step back and you look and you go, where is our engineering culture? Where is what it's like to build a product at Papercut? What are the steps that people go through? How do we engage the designers in that process? What are you actually a part of building day to day? So making sure that we've got that content kind of starting to be developed and ready to go and drip feed out onto all of the social media platforms and even through our network with different newsletters that go out from a product perspective. And definitely video. I've been harping on about video for years, and we're not perfect. It's always seems to be that thing where you're like, quickly, we need to fill this role, and you're 2 weeks in, and you're like, oh shit, we should have done a video. So getting really proactive about that, and we're really fortunate that we've had a couple of new executives join over the last 12 months. And we were really looking for people who were willing to get up and talk about Papercut and not just focus internally, but understand that a core part of their role, to the point where it's written in their position description, is to attract and retain great talent at Papercut. So lots of content around them attracting people and not us, right? Because that's the person that they're ultimately going to work for, who's going to impact their experience. So we want to use those people as kind of the carrot to attract, rather than the talent team trying to just say, hey, we're so cool, come and join us.
Can I just add to that? I saw this meme the other day, and it's like been around. Your emergency is not my priority, or something like that, where it's like somebody sitting behind a computer. And I think when you say recruitment marketing and you talk about all these elements that are going in, I think about what's really broken is the brief. And the brief is such a key point in the relationship between any department and marketing. Oftentimes, you send a Slack message or, some sort of request, and it needs to be done in the next hour and the next day because it's what's important to us. It's what's important to us. And it's not the way to engage professionals. So thinking about things 6 to 8 weeks ahead of time, if you can, start bringing in people to collaborate along the way. And if anyone needs a good briefing document, please just get in touch with me on LinkedIn. I've got one that I've been using for a few years and have been contributing to as I learn more. So happy to share that.
I think you make a really good point, because what we needed to learn was how to engage with marketing. We didn't have an expectation that marketing had to learn how to engage with us.
Yeah.
So we went through their briefing process and we let them drive the ship. No one's more important than the other person in the room. We're working on it together. So yeah, they have a really good briefing process, and they want us to put Jira tickets in. As much as I find that incredibly annoying, you know, we will put Jira tickets in.
Monday.com for us.
Yeah, we're moving over.
We're fancy. We're a tech company, so.
I think just from a marketing point of view, a brief is so important, and it's the most underrated thing. And I think even the Jira tickets wind me up. But even sitting and writing a brief sometimes can feel really dull because, like you say, it's urgent and you know what you want, but you always just do so much better.
Yeah, it's a formula for articulating yourself because you were speaking different languages if we haven't built a relationship yet.
I guess going back to the question we started with Laura, in terms of what you're doing, and not necessarily at sports, but I know your second weekend, but more generally.
A few weeks in,
what kind of opportunities have you seen that other people are doing that you'd like to spend more time with marketing on, you'd like to be doing more with?
Ooh, hard question. Can you come back to me? Sorry.
Totally.
So it's like not supposed to happen, sorry. I get called in last minute.
Well,
What's on the wish list? I guess we're really keen. We've got a really great employee ambassador program through the MarTech. So if you're familiar with that platform, you basically have a series of topics with a series of questions, and they manage the relationship with your employees to fill in the answers to these questions, and then that turns into an article. We've been pumping them out lately, and that's just been like boosting our brand interaction engagement on LinkedIn and other channels. But what I'd really like to do is actually create a video studio within the office. We've got back to base days at Sportsbet in this brand new refurbed, like amazing office, which is just like funny to say, 2 years of working from home. But we just want to get it, oh my God, we want to get it decked out. And make it really easy for our employees to just plop down, tell us their story, like MTV Real World, have a little bit of governance, maybe just coming to me, making sure that they're not like getting too raunchy, and being able to share that, being able to tell their stories. So just making it super easy and fun for people to share.
Andrew's probably told me off for plugging tech tools, but they're not here. There's a platform called Vouch4 that I've been using for employee videos, and it's free, which is why I like it. But they're also a startup. But it doesn't work for everybody because not everybody wants to be in video. But we had loads of success of people that are really happy with it, that will switch it on, and it just tells them what to do as you go through it. So it's like, oh, I only have an hour for this campaign. Brilliant. This person will do it.
Awesome.
So yeah, that's mine. We've got about 5 minutes, so I might throw it open and see if anyone has any questions.
Very interesting to know you guys about the briefing is the problem. That is the critical error, I guess. Can you tell us what is like the most common thing that people do that annoying marketing people most on the brief?
Like that annoy marketing. So how long have you got?
On the brief, I think.
I know, but still. Do you know what? I think it's usually the fact that people see a brief and they try and put as little information in it as possible. So like when it's like, who's it for? And they're like, HR people. You're like, okay, great. Any more than that? Or the same of like, you know, what are you trying to do? Objectives, I guess, is the key one as well. Like people just not being really clear on actually what the end goal is. And it's more like it's activity for the sake of activity rather than it being like, this is the end point. But I think it's something that Laura touched on as well. I think sometimes we get really obsessed with where we want to be in 3 years and we're not really focused on what we need to do now. And I think sometimes that can get lost in briefs as well. You can go too much big picture and it's high level rather than what do you need right now. That'd be mine.
I think what drives me crazy is that like every role is the most important role that's ever come across that must be filled right now, but then no creativity goes behind the job ad or even like the role description, building it in the back end. no video included, no thought to how the sourcing channels, and I think that's been really refreshing at Sportsbet that like all of our recruiters already think that way. So you're not just like, you know, going like uphill against this attitude from a hiring manager.
Thanks so much for sharing your thoughts. I just wanted to ask, when you're working in an environment where operationally you're really flat out because you've got a number of roles and as we know, you're taking on mental health, how do you create the space to be able to be more hands-on in this sort of stuff, which is a slow burn and is so important?
It's incredibly hard, you know, and it's incredibly hard at the moment because we've got people dropping like flies with COVID as well. So, you know, you kind of had this expectation that you've got this timeline and then all of a sudden half the people who were, you know, helping you with this are out. We try to build in as much as we can that's, you know, we can duplicate across multiple roles. Right, so we look to create things like candidate information packs. You know, sometimes they're generic and they can go out for every single role, or sometimes if it's a really important role like our head of engineering, we will spend a few hours, you know, with the hiring lead and a couple of other stakeholders, drawing all the information we can out to create a really attractive document that can be sent out to give candidates a lot of information. It does take time, so we have to pick and choose. We have to prioritise what gets a generic kind of piece of content or marketing and what gets something a little bit more bespoke or in depth. We are leveraging our marketing team as much as we possibly can. We have a Slack channel about this recruitment campaign. I'm not even looking at it. I'm like, someone just tell me if there's something really urgent that needs to be done. And I'm relying on their expertise and the ability for them to plan it into their schedule, because our schedules are insane. And we have so many interviews and we have so many messages we have to respond to, and like my inbox is where emails go to die. Like, you're better off LinkedIn messaging me because I'm on the platform, so I'll reply to you. But you know, it's not something that we have solved. We are putting in the extra time and the extra effort up front, probably working many more hours than we should, so that we can create this template and we can forge these relationships and we can build this understanding with the marketing team so that next time around it becomes faster and more seamless. But I completely empathise with you.
I was that question, like you were just mentioning about there's such a candidate short market in all industries at the moment. Has marketing helped you find people or aided in any way in recruitment in that sense, in the candidate short, finding the people under a rock, so to speak?
Not yet. Not yet, but we really do believe that all the support they give to us for things like our socials channels, and the fact that you can go on to LinkedIn and you can see content after content after content that is related to our culture or the different, you know, kind of roles that we have in the business, that has to be meaningful, because we have people who talk about, I saw this, or our podcast, they decided to bring back our podcast. Tried to get involved. They were like, please don't. I was like, okay. I was like, can I just throw in an idea every now and then? And they're like, sure. But even that, they're like, we've got candidates who are like, oh, I heard this podcast episode the other day. So they might not be helping us find the candidates yet. I'm really, really hopeful about this campaign that we're working on now. But it's not just about finding the candidates, because candidates research the shit out of you once you message them. So that stuff already needs to be there. It can't be an afterthought. You can't throw it at them once they're already interested. It just doesn't work like that anymore.
Okay, last question. Yeah.
It's great that you are being so proactive in collaborating across like people and culture and marketing, although obviously the unfortunate reality is that there are so many businesses out there that still have this very siloed approach. And I'm interested to understand like your point of view on what is the barrier, why is that, and why haven't we yet got more organisations sort of still, you know, collaborating in this
Yeah, I totally feel that. And I think unfortunately it comes down to the culture of the business and also the leaders in either your people and culture space and your marketing space. We have the full support of our executive for the go-to-market area. He's like, you are our internal customer. And I will tell anyone who says that that's incorrect that they're wrong. If that was the environment that I was in, and that I'm kind of trying to put myself in those shoes, is there a way you can redirect some investment that you might have in your budget for, let's say, agency spend, that historically might be quite a large budget? Can you redirect to external marketing who can help you? And maybe then if you can show some examples of how marketing expertise has really helped the business, and then go and look how much it's costing us, there might be a good business case to go to the leaders of marketing and say, hey, look, we could actually do this a lot cheaper and a lot better because you already know our brand, you already know the people that we're trying to talk to on a daily basis. Can you come and help us? I think that's probably what my strategy would be, because that's a long-term fix if you don't have that already.
Okay, I think we're getting kicked off.
We're wrapped up.
Thank you, everybody.